Hi everyone, it is Heather with Rose Hill Paper Cottage, and this is my design team project for Chapter 1 papers, and I am using their kit called Autumn Promise. So I have printed out one of the images here, but then I will also print two to a page. So you could use the full size of anything and then trim it down to what you need, but I felt like working with a smaller image was a little bit better for what we're going to make today. And I am going to show you how to make seriously the easiest pocket in the world. So here's some other pieces that come in the kit. I didn't print out everything, but there's lots of other beautiful images in this kit that you can use, to create this pocket. They have tons and tons of other kits if, you want to work with other different, color palettes or whatever. Then I also pulled some book pages, a little bit of ledger, some brown packaging paper, but just really anything, any kind of, paper that you like to use for reinforcing things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to, trim off all the white edges off of this. I just use a metal ruler. You can also, cut these, through a guillotine or a paper trimmer or with scissors, whatever works for you. So then my image is, it's fine the way that it is. You just fold it in half, but I'm probably going to end up, lengthening it, making it a little bit taller. But you could totally do your pocket that's this size. You'll see as we go. So I'm just kind of showing, like, if you wanted to extend it, this is a way to do it to add a little bit of interest. I'll also show at the end, you could have just printed the larger image and then folded it instead of in half, more on the narrow end, and then you would have a taller, paper that you could trim to whatever size that you wanted. But I wanted the images on this, the label, and then the flower to be smaller. I wanted them to, and you won't get that if you printed that particular one out larger. I hope that makes sense. I also thought that would be cute, to use that like letter ephemera, the blue or even the pink one. I thought those would be so super cute, added. Because I printed these out on, a thinner paper, I'm going to need to reinforce them anyway. Gluing it to itself is just not going to be, stable enough. So that's where a book page will come in handy to go in between. So you'll see that in a second. But first thing is we need to make our pocket. And this is so super simple. You just decide where you want your pocket to be. And that's going to be based on whatever image that you're using. So I'm going to go just kind of slightly above the label. And you just tear. And I mean, that's going to be how easy it is. So wait till you see how this comes together. It's, it's fantastic. So I just tear it a little bit right there. And that's kind of important. It's important for access, when you're sliding things in and out of the pocket. It's nice to have, it just makes sense as I go along for, just utilizing the pocket better to do that. So I'm taking this book page. Now my book page is a little bit like thicker of a paper. So you'll have to gauge that. This is not a time where I would use something that's really thin, like dictionary pages sometimes will be thin, encyclopedia type pages will be kind of thin. Even some other book pages, especially if they're older, sometimes they're thin, but just find a book page that's, a little bit thick, a little bit sturdier that can kind of handle your, paper. So I'm thinking of ways that I want to kind of, lengthen this. And I kind of just go through a couple different things. I have that, texture paste paper. I have the embossed handmade paper. But ultimately, I won't go with either of those. I felt like the embossed handmade paper is a little bit too light colored for what I'm going for. And I could have aged it and done all that sort of stuff. But I totally go a different, route. And it really turns out super cute. So I took some of the same book page that I'm using and I embossed it. And what this does is this is going to create kind of a layering. You're going to see that same kind of like color tone, that's going to be I guess it's kind of hard to explain a little bit, but you'll see as I do it where, it's curled up at the top from where it was, pulled out of the book where the spine is. And so that's going to kind of wrap over, the book page. So it kind of just gives a neat effect because everything is kind of in the same, color tone. It'd be cool if they weren't too, but it just, it looks neat. It looks like it's, torn and stuff, even though it's actually not. And I'm not striving for any kind of, perfection here. I like, the imperfect. If you've followed me for long, you know that I embrace that imperfection. So the first thing I do is I am going to glue the book page to the back. That makes sure that's down. Then I'm just going to glue the top flap closed over the book page. Not over the book page. So the next thing I'm going to do is, so my book page wasn't long enough. Obviously, you won't need to do this step. You probably could get away with not even doing the step at all, but I liked the fact that, my pocket's going to be uniform all the way. So I just take that same book page, put a little piece down at the bottom, and I make sure that the larger piece overlaps this smaller piece a little bit at the bottom, because that way things don't get stuck when they are going in and out of the pocket, if that makes sense. But obviously, the better remedy would be to have a book page that's going to be, as long as you need it. You could also put a piece of tape over the whole entire width of where the seam is, and then things, shouldn't get caught in there either. But ideally, having a larger book page would have worked better here. So I'm going to take this brown paper and I am going to glue it to the bottom flap there. So something to keep in mind is you actually want to have a little bit taller of an overhang, and it'll make sense in a second. But when the pocket is sealed shut, you don't want to see the, book page underneath, like where the separation is between the two flaps. So this will make it look incredibly seamless to do it this way. But if you don't want to, you do it your way. You do this however you want to do it. Just explaining some of the reasoning for, why I do it the way that I do it. So I have, a little bit of an overhang here at the top. And I tear a little bit, because I kind of want that like rough look or whatever. And then I'm using vintage photo for my inking. You can skip that part if you don't want to. You can also use a different, distress ink if you want to. It does really go well, though, with, Autumn Promise, this kit, the coloring, all that sort of stuff. It's really nice. I'm just kind of trimming it up a little bit. So when I fold the brown paper down, I just don't fold it all the way. So you can kind of see that I have done it a little bit, and then I kind of manipulate it so that it's not folded completely down edge to edge. That way you won't see the book page, behind it, because you may put something in the pocket like a tag or whatever that is going to be thinner, and then you'll see the book page and it just doesn't look as, nice or finished. So I hope that kind of makes sense, but I think I show it a little bit closer here. So yeah, I'm showing it there where I put the brown paper up just a little bit so that you just don't see that seam. And you can go higher, with the brown paper, to fold it down. You can create more of a lip there if you want to. My images were just too, kind of close to each other, both the floral image and the label. So you see how you can't see the book page at all? And that's because I've just, put that brown paper up just enough, just a smidge enough. But again, you can go higher with it if you need to. And then I'll put the embossed paper at the top. And you don't have to use embossed paper. You could just use any kind of anything that you find interesting. You can use other things from the kit. You could just use, plain, book page, or, old newspaper would look really, really good. You'll see what I do to the back using, I think it's an old, timesheet maybe. I'm trying to remember what that, it's right up there by my ink pad. I'll use some of that paper. And then I just glue it on the two sides, the bottom and then the side there. You could stitch it in place if you want to, but I didn't do any sewing with this. So I think it looks great, works perfectly. I think it's really adorable. And this is almost really it. I mean, I'm going to make a tag and everything for it, or like a journal card really. And you'll see, if you follow me on Instagram, I'll have probably a photo of, making more than just one and showing a little bit how they can kind of be a little bit different or whatever. So I'm going to use one of these other images to be the journal card. I just love them. They're so cute. They remind me of, I'm trying to think of what that's called, where they used to do some kind of needlework or whatever, where they would do the seat, cushions, like your dining room table. And they would, I don't remember what that was called, or maybe it's just another form of, embroidery, but it's more like with a yarn, but it's not coming to me. I can't think of it. But I saw some at the antique store. So I'm just trying to determine how I want to reinforce this, because I printed it off on a little bit of a thicker paper, but I think it might just be 28-pound paper. And so I'm trying to determine what I want to put on the back of it, how I want to reinforce it, and then also for a writing surface for future use. And that brown paper that I have in my hand right now is actually going to end up on the back of the pocket. I won't actually use it here in this particular instance. So this paper was really interesting. At some point, they had taped it or something, and it just, I don't know, it looked neat. I liked the way that it looked. So I thought it would look really cool back here. And then I leave it sticking up just a little bit. I just love all those little layers, that you can kind of see with the different, paper colors and things like that. A lot of times doing that, you don't have to do that, but a lot of times what that does is it just creates more texture, more interest, gives your project more depth, instead of, things being so flat. So I think I'm still thinking this actually, when I filmed this is the first time I made this, pocket. You're seeing me as I create it and try to figure out, what I want to do. And then, of course, sometimes like ideas come to you and things that, you want to do. So you may try this out and then, come up with some other different ways to do things. There's just, the ideas are endless, really, of what you could do. This would be so great for not just journals, but for Happy Mail or for, somebody who's celebrating, a birthday or anniversary or, whatever. And, you put maybe a gift card in the pocket along with, a note. I think, a lot of times, handmade things are just, it's just sweet. It's such a lovely thought. So I decided to glue more of the same book page. So it's a little bit of a thicker page. You can kind of tell as I'm tearing it and, using it that it's a little bit thicker. And then I'll use this ledger piece scrap down here for the backing so that there's writing space. And I'm using Beacon's glue. It dries quickly. It's fast to apply it and it doesn't warp paper. And I really like that. So I've decided I like that ink splotch. So I'm incorporating that into the back of my tag. This kit has a lot of really just pretty, muted colors of, blues and, pinks, kind of reddish pinks, browns and creams and green. It's just a really, it just gives you that cozy vibe for sure. I'm trying to decide if I want to have that flap on there at all in any way, and then I just decide to get rid of it. And then I just take my fingernails a lot just to kind of, rough up the edges of things. And this paper is, both the ledger and the book page, they both can be, torn quite easily, really. And you're already seeing it. Is that not so cute? Oh my gosh, it's so cute. I absolutely love it. It's so funny too, because like when I was originally doing this, sometimes just stuff turns out way cuter than, not that I didn't think it was going to be cute, but that I was like, man, that's really cute. So now I've gotten out some of this liquid gold. This is, optional completely. You don't have to use it, but it's kind of a cool effect. It's kind of like a bronzy gold, I would say. It just adds just that little bit of, and I can't remember if I show it up close or not, but it's just kind of cool. It can stick to everything. I totally should probably have like gloves on and everything else. I got it like all over my hands. Thankfully I had, nail polish remover and I could just, take it all off. But it was everywhere. It was all over the place. So note to self, try not to run water, like hot water on the lid when it's stuck because it might explode a little bit. And that's exactly what happened. I couldn't get the lid off and ran a little bit of hot water, and I probably knocked the lid against the, sink as well because, that's how my mama did it. So, and let's just say it was a little bit messy. But that's all right. Crafts are messy. Creating with anything is messy. So I'm just adding this a little bit, and it looks like it's really dark, but when it dries, it lightens up and it just creates more of a sheen, a shimmer. So I had to clean up, and this is all dried now because I had made such a mess. So I'm just distressing a little bit more, just unifying the piece here, not really like trying to age it, but see how you can see the gold a little bit? It's really pretty. So I'm taking an old rusty paper clip, and I think I'm going to clip it on here, but I'm not sure exactly where. I also have a smaller clip just in case, but I'll go with that larger one. And then I just have a little bit of polka dot sari silk, but I wasn't really sure about the actual polka dots. I think it's kind of gray on that one. But ultimately I'll go with this red. Well, it's not really a red, I would say. Maybe more like a burgundy or a brick red. Not burgundy, a brick red. It's just not fire engine red. I just love it. I think it's so simple and so cute. And then now that I had made this, they're so quick to put together because, that first one that I had made, which is this one, you're thinking it through, you're trying to figure it out and everything like that. But then once you've done one, they're so easy to create. I can see just making so many of them. And I just think it's absolutely adorable and so simple. So simple. I was like all excited. I was like, yay. So I was, I'm showing again like how, you could take any full page of anything to do the same thing. You just fold it where you need to, and trim it down. So obviously you could do a larger, pocket if you want to. It's all up to you, what you want to do. You don't have to do the embossing at the top or anything like that. So if you want a wider pocket, you could fold it in half. If you don't want as wide of a pocket, then you just position your paper back a little bit, or you turn it vertically and you fold it that way instead. But look at all the different images that they have. Could be, basically an embellishment to the front pocket. And I'm showing how that could have been a tag. Any of those really could be tags. There's so many different things. So now I'm showing where you could actually fold it this way to do your pocket instead, and then just trim it off wherever that you wanted it to be. So this is what I would have done if I didn't use a page that already had like images on it that were running the other direction. Instead of printing two to a page, I would have just done a full size and then folded it, vertically. But I think it's absolutely adorable. So I hope you'll make some. Let me know if you have any questions. But I'd love to see them on Instagram if you happen to be on there, and you can just tag me. But I really appreciate you being here. So thanks so much for